Welcome back to how to make sushi video. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but the last couple weeks I haven't been putting out any videos, and there is a good reason for that. This kitchen, as we know today, is going to be dismantled and I'm going to move it to a new location. Basically, my contract ended on this place. I had 3 years, and even though I've been paying every month, the owner of the house wants his house back for personal reasons, so I have to move out and find a new place. So the last couple of weeks I've been looking for a new place and starting to move all my stuff, and I've got to dismantle this kitchen. So this is the end of an era. The Make Sushi channel has gone through, this is the third kitchen, and now we're going to move on to the fourth kitchen, which will hopefully be better than the last three. At least that's what I always try to do. So we're going to be using a lot of the kitchen stuff again. Just reassembling it in a different way, since I'm going to get the chance to reimagine what the kitchen should be like. But today I'm going to do something I haven't done before on this channel. And that is, I'm going to show you behind the scenes what this studio kitchen looks like. Because you've always had the perspective of looking at it from the beautiful angles and seeing the food and being focused on the food and maybe like this stuff. But there might be some things you haven't noticed or realized about it, or the setup, and I think it's quite interesting. So today I'm going to show you quickly behind the scenes. I don't have a lot of time to film and edit this, so it's going to be very raw sort of video. Usually I have lots of cuts inside a video, and I show a very refined view of stuff. But today's going to be a more raw sort of sensation of that. So without further ado, let me show you what it looks like from a little bit further. So there we go. This is the studio kitchen in its entirety. And this is a behind the scenes shot of what it takes to make food videos. At least the way I make it. Now, the first thing you'll notice is studio kitchen has a lot of light. There are a huge amount of lights. I think there's about 1,500 to 1,700 watts of lighting. Just those two alone are 450 watts a piece. And there's the audio equipment right in the middle there. Now, the reason why you need this much lighting is to get great looking food videos, you need an intense amount of light. It's such a big amount of light that if you try to make something like an ice cream, you really have very limited time until it starts to melt, because these things radiate quite a lot of heat, which is a little bit of a problem also in summer. It can get quite hot in here. That's why I need like an air conditioning unit, just to be able to cool down the room enough so that this doesn't make it way too hot so I start sweating or something. The lights you don't see, there's some light underneath the tables. Like for example, here there's a little bit of lighting. That's just for effect. Actually, underneath this, you would expect that it would be a kitchen thing, but it isn't. It's actually more like, you know in those old Western Hollywood videos where they would they'd build like the front of the houses, but they wouldn't build the back. This is sort of what the studio kitchen is like. A lot of this stuff is not even assembled, it's just movable, so that if I want to, I can change the format of things if necessary. It's just to make it look good on camera, and it doesn't actually work as a kitchen. Like you'll notice there's a lot of things missing in this kitchen. For example, there's no fridge, there's no extraction, there's no tap or water, but that's just because where this was built. Which is a little bit of a shame. I want to get, in the next studio kitchen, I want to get a tap and sink, but this was built actually in the living room. Here was a dining room table, and there is no connections to water or anything like that. So hopefully the next one I can get that built in. Yeah, the reason for no fridge is they make a lot of sound. So if you have an environment where you want to film, you can't have something that's humming all the time, because it's just going to affect your audio. Even though my audio is not the best in the world, that would make it a little bit worse. So that's why I don't have a fridge, even though I do kind of want one. If there's a fridge that's like very silent, I would put it in here. Now, some other things to note. The formatting, how I built this, was because of issues I saw in the past studio kitchens. Like for example, because I film on my own, so I always have to be able to access the camera quickly. So I walk around this. That's why I wanted a central piece in the middle where you could walk around both sides. That way I could get to the cameras and turn them on, off, and change the settings and stuff, and make it easier for me, because one of the studio kitchens, the one before this, I had an L shape or like connected around the back, and then I'd have to walk all the time around one side. And if there was something obstructing it because of a shot, like for example a tripod, I wouldn't be able to get around easy and turn the cameras off because I work with 2 cameras. I like to use Canon 5Ds. They're a great camera just because I got used to it. Yeah, so now that I've shown you this studio kitchen a little bit, let me show you with a drone shot where it is. Let's go. Okay, so now you just saw a beautiful drone shot of where my kitchen is. This is a 2-bedroom house, and the living room, as you can see, I've converted it to the studio kitchen. So my commute to work is very short. I just go downstairs and I'm here. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the equipment I use to make these videos and what you might need to make cooking videos of your own if you're interested in doing that kind of thing. Now, the equipment I have here is a little bit advanced. This is stuff I've collected after 6 years of making videos. So you don't really need this caliber of equipment, but it's, I'm gonna show you what I do and hopefully you get some sort of inspiration if you're planning to make your own cooking videos, for example. Now, I use a 2-camera setup. I use 2 Canon 5Ds. That was a little lens on the front. These cameras, you need a microphone on top like this because the in-camera sound is not good enough. You really need an external mic to make it better. Now, also what's very important is the lenses. I find that you can use a crappier camera with a great lens than using, say, a good camera with a bad lens. And that's why I've invested a lot into my lens collection. This one, for example, is my primed lens. This is, well, it's a prime lens, but I call this the 50 cal. It's a 50mm 1.2f Canon L lens, and it's a beauty. What this does is, because of the way the aperture opens up very wide and the focal length is, it creates this beautiful focus on whatever food you're filming, and the background can be fully blurred out. It creates amazing bokeh, as they call it. Now, the other lenses I use, this is a 16-35. It creates very close-up, wide angles. It can get very close to food too. It's very beautiful. It also lets a lot of light in. And this 24-1 105mm zoom lens is great for zooming in close to the subjects. Also, if you use one of these magnifying lens thingies, you put it on the front of it, you can get even closer to food. So that's a very interesting thing to do. Now, on the camera that you're watching from right now is a 24mm. It's slightly wide angle, and I really like this lens for a lot of things. But the main thing to take away here is if you have different lenses, you get very different feels of what you're shooting. You can shoot the same subject, and with all these 4 lenses, you'd have a very, very different feeling looking at that image than if you just were to use one. Now, if you want to use one lens, I'd probably recommend a zoom lens because that will give you a bit more to work with. But if you can, get yourself a prime lens. Now, it doesn't have to be one of these. These are very expensive. You can get a 50mm that's not an L lens, and it'll run you at 20% of the cost of this, I think. I'm not sure exactly, but this is very expensive. And this is something I've acquired after, working and making videos for 6 years. So if you're a beginner, you don't need to invest in all this equipment. You can start out with much less. Like when I started out, I had really bad cameras and I slowly improved them to the state where they are now. I didn't, suddenly drop into this. Now, another thing which is very simplistic and you might not think about as important is the tripod. Now I've got a very big tripod there for that camera, and on this one I have a small tripod that goes on the table, and that's to get closer to the food. Now before I got this one, I had Gorilla Pods, which they sound great, but what happens is they're not that suited to big cameras. They say they are in their marketing, but when you put a big camera like this on that weighs 3 kilos with a lens, then what happens is you're doing your food and suddenly you'll look over at the camera and you think it's moving slightly, and then suddenly it just falls over. And I can't tell you how many shots that has ruined. And with me, when I'm cooking something, there's critical moments where you can't go back, you have to restart and re-cook everything to be able to get that. And especially when it happens at the end, it ruins so much stuff. It's just so frustrating. So I invested in this very good sturdy tripod that there's no way that it'll fall over. It's called an Enduro. It's not a sponsorship. They don't know that I'm mentioning their product. This is a very expensive tripod. I think it's like $300, but I'm not sure. I bought this one on eBay from some guy in America, secondhand. I think it was $150, and I'm really happy with it. It's really served me well. I'll link all the stuff I use in the description, but I must emphasize again, you don't need this. This is only after many, many years of working and making videos. If you're starting out, there's ways to make your videos interesting without all this equipment and stuff. Like when I started out, I only had one camera. Now I've got 2 cameras to not have to refilm things and redo them and get different angles. I can just get 2 different angles with one cook. Although I do have to cook several times sometimes. Now, this is a new addition, the Ronin DJI Ronin S. This is a great thing. I really like this thing. This is, again, it's not a sponsorship. They don't know that I'm mentioning their product. I've only got this about 2 months ago. It's a great device. Before I got the Ronin S, it's basically a stabilizer. I've packed it up now because I'm gonna move all this stuff out. But essentially, you can look at it online. It's a stabilizing thing for your camera, and you get those nice swooping shots. Before, I used to have to take the camera and move my body and really take several shots to be able to try and get one nice fluid motion. It would take a lot of time, and this really has cut down that time a lot because the stabilization of DJI is amazing. They make the drones and they stabilize those perfectly. So this machine really helps to get those smooth shots. But again, not essential. You can just, if you're starting out, just do it with your body, just move your legs and you get those nice stable shots. Now, I think I'm gonna wrap this up, this video. I don't want to go too in depth in everything. Like I said, I'm gonna link this stuff in the description if you want it. But yeah, I have to edit this quickly and post it out. And then I've got to pack up this kitchen and move it out somewhere else. I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of behind the scenes of what this studio kitchen is. And yeah, maybe in the future I'll do a more in-depth informational video about how and what I do behind the scenes and all the equipment I use and whatever. If you want to see that, then hit a like button on this video and leave a comment asking for that. Thank you for watching, and if you want to help me, also take a moment and share one of my other videos. It would really help me out. Yeah, thank you for watching.